Something major just happened in America, and most people still have no idea how big the shift really is. On the surface, the new November pistol rules look like another routine update, another government adjustment, another set of regulations buried in legal language. But the closer you look, the more you realize this is not a small policy tweak. It's a nationwide reset, a change that reaches into every single state, from the strictest on the coasts to the most permissive in the heartland. Overnight, the rules for owning, carrying, and transporting pistols have been rewritten, reshaped, and redefined in ways that will impact millions of responsible gun owners. And if you think this only affects people in gun states, think again. These changes ripple through every border, every enforcement agency, every permit system, and every citizen who exercises or plans to exercise their rights. What makes this update so explosive isn't just what the law says, it's what it implies. Because the moment these rules went into effect, the entire balance of authority between state laws and federal standards shifted quietly, instantly, and in some cases, aggressively. Suddenly, states that once controlled every detail of pistol regulation are finding themselves overridden, challenged, or forced to adapt. Rules that were solid for decades are now uncertain. Policies that once acted as barriers are now being questioned. And gun owners who thought they knew the regulations in their own states are now waking up to find the landscape completely different. That's why people are calling this a nationwide alert, not fear, not hype, but a recognition that something fundamental just changed. The November update isn't simply new wording on paper. It's the start of a new chapter in how America handles pistols, rights, and responsibility. And the real shock is that this shift is only beginning. The November pistol law update didn't arrive with loud speeches or televised signatures. It slid through quietly, tucked behind committee votes, legal memos, and regulatory shifts that most Americans never saw coming. And that quiet rollout is exactly why so many gun owners are stunned right now. Because when the rules changed, they didn't just change on paper, they changed how the entire nation interprets pistol ownership, transport, and enforcement. For decades, states each built their own maze of restrictions. Some demanded training courses, live fire tests, and renewals. Others operated on simple background checks and a standardized process. But with the November update, that balance was disrupted in a way that forces all 50 states to play by a newer, broader set of expectations. Suddenly, states with long histories of tight regulation are being pressed to align with federal clarity, and states with looser rules are being pulled into a multi-layered compliance structure they didn't ask for. The confusion isn't just legal, it's political, cultural, and deeply personal for millions of Americans. The heart of the shift lies in the way pistols are now categorized and how their use in transport must be recognized across state lines. For years, a gun owner's biggest concern wasn't safety. It was geography. A pistol that was perfectly legal at home could become a crime one town over. A transportation method that was standard in one state could get you arrested in the next. People have been jailed, fined, stripped of rights, and dragged into legal battles simply because they crossed an invisible border on the map. That's why this November update matters. Not because it changes every rule instantly, but because it forces the system to acknowledge what gun owners have complained about for decades: inconsistency. Under the new framework, states are pressured to honor the basic rights of citizens traveling with legally owned pistols, reducing the ability of local jurisdictions to arbitrarily criminalize behavior that is lawful everywhere else. The ripple effect of that alone is massive. It challenges states that built entire bureaucracies around hyper-specific restrictions, and it empowers gun owners who have lived under the constant threat of being caught in a legal trap. This update didn't come from thin air. It came because of cases real people whose lives were wrecked by unclear laws, contradictory rules, and uneven enforcement. Stories that sparked outrage, lawsuits, and ultimately federal attention. Take the growing list of travelers who were arrested in strict states despite making every effort to comply with the law. Men and women with spotless records. Truckers moving goods across the country. Parents trying to visit family. Veterans who served with honor, only to be treated like criminals because they admitted they had a legally owned pistol locked inside their vehicle. Their stories became the fuel for reform. Their names became shorthand for what was broken. And when their cases hit the courts, judges began asking the same question that millions of citizens were asking: How can a constitutional right disappear because of a mile marker? But as always, politics complicates everything. With an election year approaching, both sides are using the new pistol rules as ammunition in a much larger fight. One side frames it as a victory for constitutional rights. The other frames it as a threat to safety. And in the middle are millions of Americans who just want clarity, who want to know what they're allowed to do when they travel, when they visit family, when they commute across county or state lines. Those people are the ones the November update was meant to protect, but they are also the ones caught in the crossfire of competing narratives. Make no mistake, this isn't the final version of the law. It's the opening move. Challenges are already being drafted. Lawsuits will follow. Politicians will argue. Sheriffs and police chiefs will issue conflicting statements. Some agencies will rush to comply, while others will drag their feet and wait for guidance. But the trend is clear. The old system of 50 conflicting rulebooks is cracking. And once that cracks, it doesn't go back to the way it was. The courts have already established a constitutional baseline. The November update builds on that. And the next steps, whether they come from Congress, the courts, or future administrations, will push the nation even closer to a unified standard. For gun owners, this means responsibility, because with greater protection comes greater scrutiny. It means understanding the updated rules, not assuming old ones still apply. It means knowing the boundaries, the rights, the limitations. It means acting with intention, not impulse, because every misstep, every misunderstanding, every misuse becomes a headline the opposition will wield against the very rights this update aims to strengthen. And that's where this moment becomes more than a legal shift, it becomes a cultural one. The November update signals that the nation is rethinking not just pistol laws, but the relationship between citizens and the state. It questions whether rights are privileges or guarantees. It asks whether public safety should be built on control or clarity. And it challenges every American to decide where they stand. Some will celebrate the update as overdue. Others will fear it as dangerous, but all will feel its impact, because this is not the kind of change that stays in courtrooms and legislative chambers. It touches the daily lives of millions. It reshapes travel, responsibility, and even identity. As the dust settles and the states respond, one truth becomes unavoidable. The November pistol rules mark the start of a new national conversation, not about guns alone, but about governance, trust, responsibility, and the Constitution itself. Whether this leads to unity or deeper division depends on what happens next, on how lawmakers act, how courts rule, how agencies interpret, and how citizens respond. The update is in effect. The debates are coming, and the future of pistol regulation in America is officially shifting from 50 separate voices to one national spotlight.